Hello, everyone. Today we will be making another project called bookbinding. So we will be starting with paper pads, and maybe for the next videos will be more on soft bound binding and hard bound binding. So this is Rain, and let's start making our project. So to start with our project, we will be needing the following. Our cutting tool, which is the cutter. So the cutter can be removed. If ever the blades becomes dull, you can actually remove that part of the blade by getting the, I don't know if this has, but you could actually remove this, no, using maybe a pliers if you don't have the type of cutter having, a remover of a dull blade, no, just in case. So aside from the cutter, we will be needing also a straight edge. In our case, we will be using a triangle. Okay, we will be needing some adhesive like this red padding glue. There are other colors of this. This is the standard. This is usually used in making paper pads. Blue. This is red. And you have white glue. For example, you don't have this, you could also use the white glue like that. Okay, so we can use this as well. What else? We will be needing as well, maybe if you don't have new band paper, you can use scratch paper that are just scattering around your homes or in your office. You can use that, for this project. No? A very good recycling project, to make use of those old or unused back portion of your paper that's still very good for writing. We will be using also a cardboard, something like a hard part, of our padding, of our paper pad, to support the back portion. So you can use some used or old folders you have at home as well. So we will be using that. Okay, so those are the tools and materials. And also, don't forget a marking tool, a ball pen, you can use that. And also a very good base. In this case, this is something like a rubber mat, to protect the surface of the table. Never use a cutter or cut on the table without a protection of the table. Okay? So that's it. Those are our tools and materials. To start with, we will prepare the main material, which are bond papers. So for example, we will be cutting this into 4 equal parts or into quarters. So you need to multiply it by 4. For example, if you will be getting 10 of this, so you will expect that you will have a 40-page paper pad. So in our case, we will be using maybe 15 pages. 15 pieces of this long bond paper. So you will be counting. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so we will be setting aside the extra paper. So if you like, you can also use a scratch paper, but right now we will be using the new bond paper for this project. Okay, so we need to rearrange or to arrange the paper well by doing this usual step, in arranging the paper. Since we will be cutting this into 4 parts, then we could make this step. You just have to position both ends of the paper. There you go. And maybe putting a mark for easy cutting later. And after that, we can fold the paper lengthwise. Okay, our repair purpose is just to get the center most of the paper, and then the last part as well. This will give us a clear guide later on how we will be able to cut the paper. So we will try to target the center. Okay, I'm going to try hitting the center here, both crosswise and lengthwise. So this is the intersection somewhere here. So we will now start cutting the paper, and don't forget to put a marking here as well. Okay, so in cutting, we just simply position the paper like this, and these are our glues. We will be using this later in our project. Using our straight edge. So we have to make sure that this is very straight. And then our cutter as well. So the technique is to place the edge here of the ruler on both sides, and we need to start the cutting process. You don't have to use the entire length of your blade. You just only have to expose, say, like this, enough just to cut the paper. Okay, so I am now doing the cutting of the paper. The technique is not for you to apply so much pressure on your work, but the technique is, even if it's just a light stroke, but even from here going here, so that's better. So you have to do this step, okay? And then the technique also is for you to keep the cutter in a lower angle, okay? Do not cut like this angle, it's too high. Maybe you could just position it like this. No, the more you slant the cutter blade, as I only notice, this becomes more the cutting part, or this portion here, becomes very neat. Okay, so we have already cut the paper. So you still remember the marking, and this marking, that's very important. So this is also another part. So we could just place it there and place the paper here and pinch again. So after that, we need to make sure that the paper is also straight, and we're going to use the straight edge again to guide the cutter. So we will now be starting the cutting process again. So I don't put too much pressure on my work, because that can also be too dangerous if you lose control and the cutter blade will go to your hand. So you really need to be very focused in your work. Okay, don't think of other things but just your work. So uniform, even pressure from top going here up the bottom of your work. So I just do that step for me to make sure that the pieces of paper are completely separated. Okay, so that's it. Then we're going to put it this way. So we already have, so this is 15 pages before as a whole paper. So 4 times of that, that's 15, 30, 60 pages, I think. So this is 60 pages paper pad, but it's still loose, no? So we need to put a glue on it. And putting the glue, but before putting the glue, maybe we could use a different color to contrast the color of the paper. So the step is just simple. We will just use maybe 1 piece of this, and this is an old folder also from one of my files. I just used it. So in doing this, maybe you could position it here just to maximize the paper. You can also do this way so that you could still make another paper pad in here. So as a TLE major, you need to be very, very economic. Observe economy of your material. Okay, because you are buying that. So once you have identified, this becomes the back part of your paper pad. Okay? And then you just trace or use the shape of the piece of paper that we previously cut. Okay, so we're done. So I think we have already successfully cut the backing part of our padding pad, of our paper pad. So we will place this at the back of our paper pad, and maybe we could cut this into half. You will know later why I'm doing this. So you could put the one part here. Make sure that the not so clean cut stays here, and always maintain that this part is really straight. Actually, the purpose of this is to protect this part from getting smeared by the padding glue. Okay, so what will we do is just position that way. Okay, so previously in my previous video, I make use of this tool called the padding or the binding clamp. So if you don't have the binding clamp with you, we can make use of books. Okay, so if you have books like this, you could pile them up. Just pile them up like this, and in doing that, we could actually clamp or position these pieces of paper here. Okay, so I think another step that you need to remember is for you to put or create some incisions or cuts in this part of the paper where you will be applying glue. This will further strengthen the binding of these pieces of paper. Okay, so you will notice also that the edges here are not straight. We will still be doing the last few steps later once the glue will dry up. Okay, so put the paper here and then using books that you have at home. These are thesis or hardbound books. We can also make this one later. So put the books in here. Okay, so you will notice that the paper pad is already sandwiched by this books. Okay, so we will just be doing this step because we don't have the binding clamp. Okay, so make sure that it's actually positioned in place, and the part where we will be applying the glue, it's also very straight. Okay, position. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, para you could see the difference. Maybe we will just be removing this part later. This will just only protect, the cover, for us to preserve the cleanliness or the workmanship. That's very important as TLE major. Okay, so after that, maybe we could place a book on top. Okay, one book. Let's readjust again. And another one. Okay, and another one. Okay, so it's time for us to use our padding glue. In my previous video, we used this. We use this, not as our adhesive. But right now, maybe we can use this white glue, sponsored by the BSIS. Okay, so we can just simply put the glue on the part of our binding. I mean the part where that will hold the pieces of paper together. So we can apply first coat only. And then we will wait for the padding glue to dry up. Okay, it's very important. Okay, so we have already applied the glue on the paper. So let me just refocus your attention on the details of our work. So you can see that there is this glue there. Okay, so we need to wait. So we can also remove some of the excess glue. Okay, and we will be waiting until the glue dries up. So we are already finished with our drying process. Now as you can see that the edge here is completely dry with our white glue. So you can actually add more coatings to it for you to achieve your desired thickness of adhesive. But in this case, since we already achieved, it's already durable, as you can see. So the next step that we need to do is to cut or to make the finishing steps. Okay, so we will be removing this part already of our project. Okay, so that's it. So this goes to waste. We will not be needing that anymore. So using our cutter again and our triangle, we will be making sure also that we are doing it squarely by placing the cutter here as your reference and cutting. As you can see, there are not even edges of our paper. See? Another part here and then the bottom part as well. So the last step that we need to do is to trim this out, to make it straight. Okay, so for us to do that, we just simply position our triangle like this. Since triangle is in right angle, so meaning to say that it's square. We need to square this, so that it will become more professional looking. Okay, so for you to square your paper, just like in wood, we need to position it that way. Okay, so also do not trim very little like this or that one, because it will be difficult for your cutter. I think you need to allow at least 1/8 of an inch for you to have a good grasp or grip with your cutting process. Okay, so we will now be cutting the edge. So I will be teaching you some technique in cutting the paper by simply, the technique with the cutter. And of course, again, do not forget to place a rubber mat or a protection to the surface of your work, because the cutter will really damage the surface of your table, especially if it's a good finished table. So we need to look for a base like this, which you can just buy this in most school supply shops. Okay? So we will now be trimming this out. So remember to have a uniform pressure while you are cutting. Okay, let's try to position the uniform pressure. You don't have to be so hard with the paper. Just a few uniformly stroke pressure will do the trick. Okay. I think we're done with the first part or edge. So we're done. So as you can see, this is already very neat, okay? And also square because we use the triangle. It's also square. It's ugly once you cut that way, So that would mean it's not square and it will affect the quality of your work. So we're done on this edge. We will be doing it on this side of our work here. So the same. Also dispose properly your garbage or the cut portion of your work. So this will always be our reference. So maybe we could reposition it that way. and minimum I think of 1/8 of an inch. Okay, I really have to make sure that this is not, so that I can be really sure that this is 90 degrees. Okay. There you go. Just simple, not too hard. And also position your cutter in a angle very close to the paper, so that you will be able to have a very good and neat cut. Okay. Okay, so we're done with the second part of the paper. We will now be cutting the last part, which is the lower part of our paper pad over here. So again, make sure it's square by putting your reference here. Okay, once it's snugly positioned, it will be your reference to cut the remaining. Okay. Maybe we could, because the edge of the triangle is not anymore very sharp, so we could start here. Okay. You need to practice. See that? So that's the technique. So I think we are already done with our paper pad. So you could use this, for your, jotting down notes, or say anything that you need to do with, for example, with your scratch papers at home that are just scattering around, just like this. Now these are scratch or old tissues paper, so you can do this into paper pad, by of course still using the same technique. Now you could also use this padding glue, but if you don't have this, then you can use only the white glue. Now you will see the difference. White glue is just like Elmer's glue that you could buy in the market. So it's somewhat white, but once it dries up, it becomes translucent, just like this. But paper pad, the moment it dries up, it becomes at first it's pink, but if it dries up, it becomes red. Okay, so recycle the paper that is just scattering around, and then all you need to do is just this paper and maybe a hard covering at the back, just like this, or use folders as well. You just place it at the back so that it gives more support to your work. Okay, so this is the paper pad. So we're already done with our project, which is the paper pad. So in this project, we use 1/4 or a quarter of the material. In our next project, which is the soft bound binding, we will be using half. We will be cutting the paper into half so that it will look like a notebook, which you can use in your school, and many other purposes. So this is much stronger or durable compared to the paper pad, because we will be introducing some techniques and other attachments to it so that it becomes more durable. Okay, so see you again on our next video as we will be making the paper pad. Okay.